If you have the resources, structure your digital team like an octopus. We've always had a bottleneck problem with influencers in the Democratic Party. And in that moment, I think I stopped fighting the urge to categorize all the news I was putting together and wanted to see it as one giant picture. If you're on a campaign and your current plan has influencers just in the GOTV section, no.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Hello Merge Tag, a podcast about social media, politics, and where they intersect. We check in with candidates, consultants, strategists, and more to find out what's working and what's not in the political digital world. I'm your host, Josh Clemens of Reverbal Communications. We help progressive campaigns and organizations win the internet. Have questions you want answered on the pod? Have a guest or topic recommendation? Just want to say hey? Drop us a line at hello@reverbalcommunications.com. Find all episodes at hellomergetag.com or wherever you stream podcasts. Now let's dive in. Look out, Facebook. Now you can drive website visits directly from CivicShout. Introducing Express CPC, CivicShout's new cost-per-click ad system. Everyone already knows that CivicShout's the best way to grow your opt-in email list. Folks like M&R, Greenpeace, and Feeding America stand by it. So can you. Grow your list and run traffic campaigns that hit so hard, your team will wonder how you did it. Environmental Action called CivicShout a wildly better way to grow your email list. And Clarify Agency saw a 200% return on ad spend in just 2 months. CivicShout, the ad platform for progressive causes. Head to civicshout.com/partners to learn more. That's civicshout.com/partners.
Lucy Ritzmann is a progressive digital strategist and a founding member of Courier's National Newsroom. She's a former co-author of For What It's Worth, Courier's must-read weekly email for us political digital nerds. I first met her collaborating on the FYP, a weekly Courier email covering political TikTok, specifically focused on how the two presidential campaigns, this was Biden and Harris and Trump, were approaching one of the most important and complex platforms in politics. Lucy is currently in law school at Georgetown, but when she's not buried in casebooks, she's writing a great Substack newsletter called the Group Chat Correspondent. I invited her on the pod to talk about the current state of independent progressive media, what trends she's following at the moment, and a whole lot more. So Lucy, thank you so much for joining us today. Super happy to have you here, longtime fan and friend and whatnot. Okay, let's talk about Substack first of all. So many progressives, and even now a bunch of celebrities, are joining Substack. Mm-hmm. You're one of those people that has joined Substack. So let's start with, what do you think makes Substack unique? And I'll just give the preface that I've been focused on Substack for years. And one of the things that I've really noticed them doing is trying to be literally every other platform in one. So I guess I'm curious your take on that, but also just like, why'd you choose Substack over something else? And how are you thinking about Substack in the 2026 media landscape?
Yeah, definitely. And I was laughing. I don't know if you saw Troye Sivan just joined Substack. Like, it's literally everyone and their brother. Haley Steinfeld made news by being the first celebrity to announce a pregnancy on Substack.
Oh, okay, we're at that level. Okay,
we're at that level. It's really crazy. And so I have everyone in my family being like, "Can I make one?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can."
Sure, why not?
I totally agree with the issues you've identified, because in my mind, I can talk about Substack as an email platform, as a newsletter platform, and I can also talk about it as a social platform. I don't know if that's good that I can talk about it in both ways. On a superficial level, I think it just is currently existing in the life cycle of a social media platform where things have not become entrenched and horrible yet. I think the thing that I hear the most from new Substack users, whether they be, like popular figures who start with already 10,000 subscribers or just brand new people to the site that don't have any following, is that the feeds and the comments and all of that still exist with positivity. There's like very little trolling at this point in time. So I think people find it refreshing in a way. Like it was what Bluesky was supposed to be, which I don't know if Bluesky ever fully realized, but it's still very positive. I don't think Substack can ride that wave for much longer though, because this is the life cycle of a social media platform. The divisiveness, the biases, the anger will become entrenched. The scammy bots will find their way there. So I think they're kind of in their honeymoon period still, but that is going to end. And of course, the more users end up on the platform, the more attention it garners, the faster that's going to end. Now to the more like deeper, interesting features of Substack. So when I started Substack, I don't know if you were on at this point in time. I think the first time I was ever on was like 2021. It was just newsletters. Like that was before the feed had been rolled out. There was the network, which, the superpower of Substack is the network where you recommend and you like funnel engagement to your friends and to people in your world. And I remember thinking the feed was so bizarre and no one was ever going to use it. And I still kind of stand by that, because that was not what you were going to Substack to do. But of course, they then incentivized usage of the feed for authors. Like, there was a time where we were advising everybody to post 2 to 3 times every time you send a newsletter. That was compounded upon by the live video. Like if you were on Substack last year, like, and you wanted more followers, you go live. And they did a good job getting us to change our behavior, to adopt the social media aspects. But I agree in the fact that it's confusing and it's this behemoth now that is part engine, but it doesn't really have like targeting tools. Like you can't segment your email list on Substack. I mean, you can try, but it's like really messy and doesn't really.
No segmentation. Just paid and unpaid is like I think the primary ways to segment, right?
Yeah, and like you can get funky with it and like get into your subscriber list and hand select and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like I don't know if you've tried to explain it to like an actual digital campaign fundraiser. They're like, okay, can you do list A? I'm like, what is list A?
Right.
A.
List A is everyone. List B is also everyone, right?
Yeah, right. You want no one to see it or everyone to see it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's been really weird. And then this forced, enforced, incentivized social usage is really interesting. The live video function was fascinating, but it had a ton of glitches, and I'm sure like Katie Couric, her first live didn't work, so they had to switch to Instagram. That's not good. Like that's
not
pretty
good. Yeah.
And like it happens. As someone who's
for sure.
Every tech platform has crashed on me before. It's okay. But yeah, it's really weird. And then I feel like kind of in the middle, maybe the end of last year, kind of the whole year, there was like the resurgence kind of Beehive and Ghost, which are alternative newsletter platforms that are really focused just on newsletters. There's much less of a social aspect. Patreon's also kind of getting in the game, but with a kind of different take on it. And I feel like that was really popular for a minute. And I was kind of like, oh, is the Substack moment over? But it isn't. I think they made it through that thing. And I don't know if it was the social features that ultimately made it stand out or gave it longevity. I don't know if it's the fact that it had just been legitimized enough by celebrities at that point when they had real competition. But yeah, I really was wondering at some point if there was going to be a mass exodus. And I have not seen it. I made the choice to double down on Substack last year. So yeah, it's fascinating to me, and because all of them have glitches, all of them have issues, all of them have amazing, features, but Substack it seems like it has staying power for right now.
Yeah, so Notes was one of the many kind of like, so Substack, for our listeners who don't use Substack started as just emails, right? Like, and then it sort of launched into rolling out a toolkit, including live video. Now they have a TV app they're rolling out, which is just wild. Like, I guess if you want to watch Mike Nellis on your TV, you can do that now. But then they also rolled out a Twitter competitor after Elon bought Twitter called Notes. And there was a minute there where Notes seemed like it had a lot of staying power to grow your newsletter.
Yeah.
I personally had one note go viral, like huge numbers. And I actually gained hundreds of people to my newsletter. Wow. But I'm working with a client right now who has massive following over there, and he's had some huge hits, and it's hardly driven any traffic. So I'm curious if you've seen Notes help you drive any traffic to your newsletter, or if they're completely disconnected for you.
No, I do it because it's it's checking the box. It's showing the algorithm or something. My driver has been TikTok. This is interesting for me. I make a form of the newsletter every time I send it for TikTok that's like optimized for that platform. And I had very low hopes for it because I didn't do the link. I don't even think I could do a link. I just do text on screen, like the URL of my newsletter. Drove a ton of people. I got like 300 subscribers off one video where like the people had to physically type in.
Wow.
That's not good for conversion.
No, for sure.
Not expecting that. And that pattern has continued. I would say it's more of a slow and steady than like bursts of virality, but yeah, it's shocked me, but that is where I'm getting people from on social media. It's not Substack's native Notes platform, interestingly.
Interesting. Yeah. So I was going to ask, like, how else are you growing it? Is that the primary way? Is just TikToks? Are you like, so, and again, for folks who don't know Substack, they have this discovery engine through Notes, which can be cool. Although, like I said, like it worked really well for me a year ago. It hasn't really since. And this client of mine who I'm working with who has big numbers is barely getting anything. the other big thing is recommendations, right? So like somebody likes your newsletter, they recommend it, and I get tons of subs from two in particular. I recommend a lot, and a bunch recommend me. There's two in particular that seem to drive the majority of the traffic. It's hard to say if they're like, I'm not monetizing them, so it's hard to say like if any of it matters in that regard. But have you used recommendations? Did you find any traffic from it? Or okay.
Yeah, that is the like Substack secret sauce. I think that is my favorite part of the platform for sure. I think most people would agree with me. And for every single newsletter I've ever worked on, like that is an incredibly helpful tool. So yeah, very much utilize that. And I'm sure you do this too. Like my network is built around people that I actually know and are like close friends and that I've worked with and stuff like that. So I feel like it's nice because it is an actual genuine network working together. And then other things I do, yeah, social media is a big one. And like, talking head videos with my head is helpful for the newsletter and anyone's head, honestly.
Specific TikTok or in other places as well?
Specific to TikTok.
Have you tried Instagram and not seen success, or it's just TikTok's been easier for you to jump into?
I need to do more on Instagram. I mean, they're all evil now. I just downloaded Upscroll, and as another, like, who knows, maybe this one wouldn't be better. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm Gen Z less than I am a millennial. I just don't do Instagram in the way that like some of my peers are wizards.
I'm older, and most of the content I post these days is TikTok over Insta, although we'll see what TikTok looks like in a month. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I was just curious, like, yeah, you're creating the content anyway. You're not like uploading it to YouTube Shorts or Instagram. You're just kind of sticking to TikTok.
Yeah.
Cool.
I am really a believer, and this is a change for me. Like it used to be like, okay, you have content, you have vertical content, you should put it on every vertical content site. I do advise that for campaign, like
sure.
did even do advise for campaigns if that's your option, right? If the option is this or nothing. But I do kind of believe in order to like do a good job on a platform, it's got to be 100% of your energy when you're making the content. So for me, it was kind of the trade-off of like, okay, I can do TikTok and like I really know the platform, I really know how to edit and all that. And I'll put all my attention to this versus like trying to just throw it on other sites, and because I know myself, and then I'll want to check on the other sites and I'll distract myself.
I do it for sure. I distract myself for sure constantly. Like, I mean, for me, and like for me, I'm trying to learn what's working so I can teach my clients. Like, yeah, I'm growing an audience, but like I'm much less interested in the audience I can grow than like the audience I can help my clients grow. So understanding really understanding what pops on YouTube Shorts, and the short answer is I have no freaking idea. Like YouTube Shorts is so random and so hard to navigate, but even Instagram Reels, like it's very different than TikTok. It's quite interesting, like what takes off on one versus the other, and sometimes it's really hard to guess like which is going to do well where. And so yeah, I try all three with some content, not everything. But again, for me, I'm mostly just like always pushing the boundaries of the algorithm, trying to figure out like so I can teach others, like what the hell is going on at any given day.
I also felt like Instagram was exhausting, like trying to stay up to date with the like Adam Mosseri like updates. Yeah. I like was
it's like he has a bad breakfast and suddenly the algorithm has to be changed to match his mood.
And I was so frustrating because like, yeah, people would ask them like thoughts and we'd be in readouts and like it's like I have no freaking clue because when I made this 3 days ago, since then there have been 4 algorithmic changes.
Right.
I have no idea.
Right. Yeah.
Giving us this advice, it's so vague, it makes no sense. Sorry to like shade him, but I appreciate the transparency, I guess. But like,
yeah, he thinks out loud in a way that's probably not ideal for somebody at his level, because he'll be like, yeah, he just like he'll tell you to use more hashtags and be like, actually don't use any hashtags. Actually use, it's like contradictory advice, and like he's all over the place, but he is by far the most open. Like I know he's not the CEO, but he like runs Insta. Like I don't think there's any other CEO who's so like actively involved with their audience, giving them advice day to day. Like he is an interesting character, but yeah, not always helpful. I agree with that.
I encourage anyone like sitting there, try and sit there with your notepad and your pencil and pretend to be us. Like trying to write down what the actual actionable pieces are. Just like you said, it's like you have to use 4 hashtags exactly or none. And if you do anything wrong, you're not getting any views.
I know. Shut you down. So random. So let's talk about what does success look like for you as like an independent media newsletter person? Are you approaching this like? Do you think that Substack feels more like a news chat, like an email list, or more like a social channel? Like you're putting stuff out, there are comments and likes, but again, you can't you can't target the list. You can't like segment, like, how do you approach this when you're writing it? Are you thinking about it more like, what are your KPIs that you're like focused on, your key performance indicators?
Yeah. I feel like there's like obviously open rate and reach. I am really close to being subscribed to in all 50 states, which was a huge goal of mine.
Oh yeah.
So there are like a handful of states that if I really hope one of your listeners is from that, and like please
Name them. We can ask around.
it's the Dakotas. I really need
Okay.
help in the Dakotas and Arkansas.
I know somebody in North Dakota. I think I can get you there, and maybe Arkansas too. I'll do my best. But if you're listening and you know somebody in the Dakotas or Arkansas, have them sign up. The links will be in the show notes, of course.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was, and that I will flag, going to circle back. That was because of TikTok growth. Like that was my videos reaching people, and because I'm from New York City originally, so I have a big New York contingent. I knew that was going to happen. I have a big California contingent. I have a big DC contingent. I have a big Illinois contingent. I have a big Texas contingent. Like that's what you expect with the political newsletter.
Your people.
And I know, yeah, all really amazing humans. But like when I started seeing like other states come in, like deep red states, which people that are blue in deep red states, I don't know stronger people. Like they ride so hard. I admire those people so much. But yeah, like I got followers from Alabama and Utah, and I'm like, I've never been to those places. I was like, how is this happening? It was literally girls my age on TikTok seeing the videos. So that was really, really cool. Or is it? Oh, success. So that's one marker that I've put in my head, because I need KPIs to function, having done digital this long. And then there's open rate. There's the more technical stuff. There's.
Like, do you care about likes and comments, or like, do you see like that those numbers go up on like a particularly banging issue, or like you're really just focused on open rate?
Yeah, something that was fascinating for me is I did back in June. I did a special. I didn't actually send it. I did a special post tracking all of Zoran's media appearances right after he won the primary, and I didn't send it. I think at that time I was scared to spam an audience. Like I had just made a promise, put a concept forward. For context, my newsletter was brand new at that point. Okay. And I didn't want to hit them up with a random send. So I just posted it, which for people unfamiliar with Substack, if you just post, you expect like 4 views. No, you expect like 40.
Like 99% of my views when I send one out is in your inbox, and like a handful of people might see it like in the platform. So yeah, that makes sense.
Basically not pushing it out at all. But I posted about it on LinkedIn, which we haven't talked about, like huge driver in this cycle. Crazy.
Oh, cool. I mean, I'm seeing big numbers there too, for me. Like not big numbers, but a lot of engagement over there. Like that's where like my peers, like who left Twitter, like we're hanging out on LinkedIn now, which is awesome. So it's so weird, but there we are,
I want to see, I really think the first person who cracks like dropping ActBlue links in an interesting way into LinkedIn is going to raise a lot of money.
I don't disagree. Yeah, for sure. I've had a couple campaigns focus on LinkedIn, but only a couple. And I've raised some money there, but not like, not big numbers or anything.
I think it's got to be like the way we used to fundraise on Twitter, where it was like genuinely like a funny tweet or like a good tweet. So like you've got people laughing, ready to click on the link, or you've got people inspired, ready to click on I think the first person that does that for LinkedIn is going to make a lot of money. A free idea.
Let's make it happen. Yeah, exactly. If law school doesn't work out, yeah.
I would like a cut. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But what was I saying? Drivers, LinkedIn.
We were talking about like engagement and whatnot.
Yeah. So
you were talking about the Zoran one. Like you did the post about Zoran, and it did big numbers, even though you didn't share it.
It did really well because it got a lot of likes and restacks and all that. Restack is retweet. But
so it did well, like in notes, or like
no actual send.
Interesting. Even though you didn't put it in people's inboxes, it still like reached a lot of people.
Yeah. Which like
I've never tried that with an email there. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I mean, at that point, a lot was like 1,000. Yeah, but I didn't expect anyone to see it, so that was really interesting. So that kind of like clued me into doing more with the button at the top of the Substack newsletter, which I knew, but I guess I was ignoring. And something that I think I've like learned / this is just normal, like I do it to other people now. Like when my friends post a newsletter, when someone who I think is really smart posts a newsletter, I hit all the buttons in the top, and I found that energy is reciprocated a lot, which is really nice. Which goes back to like, Substack is still kind of a warm fuzzy community, which is great. And you have people meaningfully engaging just because they support you as a writer or as a creator. So that's been interesting. I like don't have any specific metrics because I'm sure like Substack is not they're not as transparent as Instagram
No.
on what's working.
Right.
But I think it's a good thing to do, and it's
Yeah, like
something-
even MailChimp has much better, like you can't really track link clicks and things like that. They show you how many people opened the email and how many saw it in the feed, and like there's the metrics are not there, but I mean a lot of the toolkit's quite powerful, but yeah, the metrics are harder to. And you know, so I subscribe to a ton of Substacks that I read religiously. I pay for a lot of them. I don't click the buttons at the top, so I guess I should start helping them out. Yeah, like I'm opening my credit card for them, but yeah, I'm not like hitting that like button because I'm like, I don't know, I read it. Sometimes I even like post it on social, you know, somewhere, but I rarely like do it right from the email. So that's a good flag that I can help out the people I like doing that. That's good to know.
Yeah, I have no idea how much it helps, but it's something I
Sure.
started doing. I think people just like they notice it too, like, and I notice it when I get a like, because I feel like you said, not many people actually like the Substack, like in the email. So when it happens, I absolutely know who did it. I'm appreciative. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think people notice it a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. So, okay, what do you think beyond Substack? What do you think is the landscape of like you're part of why I wanted to talk to you because A, you're starting your own like progressive media space, but also you come from Courier, which is one of the biggest in the industry at the moment, very independent progressive. So what do you think is the current landscape of like progressive independent media in 2026? Is everything fucked? Is there hope? Like how are you like take fascism and authoritarianism out of it? Because obviously like that's beyond what we can talk about here. But like as far as what you're seeing emerge, like are you hopeful for the industry or is everything broken and it's like, you know, the fact that Ken Klippenstein has to like break all these stories is a sign that everything has failed us. Like how are you feeling about things?
Yeah, I mean, from a platform perspective, I have a lot of stress. Thinking about what happened on TikTok over the weekend, I'm sure they did have a power outage and things went haywire. I don't think that accounts for like what happened. That's really concerning. I, see a lot of creators that I love, like Suzanne and Barrett and others who do amazing, but I know that they are fighting against like impossible forces. Like all the views that they get are a coup. It probably should be double that. Like they're like it's and people get their videos deleted. Like if you're a progressive on that app, you are aware that app hates you. But it's still like one of our most powerful engines. And I think just all the apps hate us because I won't get too much into this because you said don't think about fascism. But
I mean, you can. I just don't want. My goal here is not to solve that. It's just to look at the landscape of like what can we do better within the confines of the terrible reality we live in. So feel free to comment on fascism. You don't have to.
on that. I think like in the same way we talk about Supreme Court capture, which is terrifying, and has had court capture happen. Like their social media capture, they're all gone. And I actually did a tweet. I still tweet. I know it's bad.
I'm trying not to. I do occasionally, but try not to these days.
I know. And here's the thing, like every time I think about alternatives, I'm like, no, that's bad. And that's bad. Like it's really hard and depressing to try and find alternatives these days. But I like posted something stupid, like I'm begging one Democratic billionaire to buy an already popular social media platform because we're getting crushed out here. And like, I 100% stand by that. I had like, of the few people who are still on Twitter, I got a lot of DMs like, yes, like, for God's sake, can JB Pritzker buy back Twitter or buy Instagram? Like, I know it's going to take a lot of money and maybe they'll never give it to us, but like, I think we've just lost so abysmally and we didn't notice it was happening, or we did, but we didn't do anything about it. So now we're expecting like everyone's strategy is centered on influencers, but we didn't lay any infrastructure to make influencers successful. Like you want outreach on TikTok. TikTok is not going to let us do GOTV content. Like point blank. It's all going to like get glitchy or they're not going to come out and say it. They're like, oh, there's like a strike against this video, and then you repost it, oh, there's still a strike. Like anyone who's like relying on it for the midterms, I'm scared. So I'm just putting that out there. The other thing I'll say about the landscape and like media folks and new media folks, and like I just think it would be helpful if we all saw each other as one big team. I feel like, and I honestly, I like loved being at Courier because we were a team already. Like we are individuals, and a lot of us make our own content. But we're very team minded, and like it's the type of like and I think a lot of my friends in the space are the same way. If I have a content idea and you want to make it, please make it. Like I am not precious. Like this isn't all hands on deck. I just feel like I've seen some weird internet fights break out with those of us in the general space that just don't feel productive. And like, I
Interesting.
get the frustration of like, I don't know, this is a really hard time for everybody. But like, I just feel like sometimes we don't act like we don't all have the same goal. And also, this is what I always say, we are one of the rare industries where like our resources and what we can do is technically infinite. Like me having a follower does not mean you can't have that follower.
Right.
We both have that same follower, which
Yeah,
is so rare and like such a beautiful thing. Like there's like no ceiling to the work that we do, which makes it so exciting. But then I don't necessarily understand any conflict that might arise. Obviously there's going to be conflict, but like especially taking it public and fighting, and like this is a greater part. I think it's a reflection of what's happening in the Democratic Party as a whole, where like at our darkest moment we are all fighting each other and like tearing each other to shreds. And like it's not accountability, because accountability is with the intention of solving it, right? Like alerting the person that they've done something wrong, there's something that needs to be fixed, and then moving forward. There's so much just squabbling. I think it's like scary, because if you start a Twitter fight, you're gonna gain, or Twitter fight, whatever, social media fight,
Social
you're gonna like gain followers. Everyone knows that, right? But at what cost? And I think like, and most people, the absolute majority of people in the space are not like that and would never do that, and are fully committed to like doing good in this world. But for the small percentage of people that I think have just realized that if they fight online, it raises their personal brand, like we cannot be doing that. Like it's just, that's what scares me the most about this media landscape. I think it's like, we can't put aside our differences. We shouldn't put aside our differences. That's part of holding each other accountable. But like realizing that we have one goal, and our goal is it is not to become a sponsored creator. I hope it's not
certainly not my goal. Yeah.
yeah, if you want to like be an Amazon influencer, go do that.
Sure,
Like don't
do
be
it.
here doing this.
Right.
So I think, yeah, it's just, we've got to realize we're all on the same team, and the stakes have never been higher. And like I said, we have one of the most uniquely powerful verticals of progressive politics, where the sky is quite literally the limit. And we have to use that. Like I don't know what the point is if we're not doing right by that.
Anybody you're seeing use that well? Like anybody you're excited about, like who's like doing a good job? Like, I mean, obviously like Courier, I know you're not there anymore, but they continue to crush it. If folks haven't listened to my conversation with RC DeMezzo from a few months ago, cannot recommend it enough. He pulled back the curtain on like all their secrets. It was amazing. But beyond like Courier and some of the like bigger, like brands that Midas Touch style who are doing this, like, are there any other like smaller creators or folks like even without big audiences that you're like excited about or following, or like it's more broad for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I feel like the Couriers and the Midases and the Now Thises and all, like they kind of impact, like they kind of all exist in a separate category in my head. And obviously a lot of people are crushing it. It's been really cool to see. RC is a genius. You should definitely listen.
He's amazing. Yeah.
To that podcast. I will use her story because I think it's proof of like what just like happens when you're authentic online. Suzanne Lambert. I feel like everyone knows her now. What was interesting for me is she was one of the first creators that I think I followed her when she had like less than 10,000 followers, and just watched. I think she's close to 1 million now. And like I think like she became very famous for talking about Republican makeup, like how they're bad.
Yeah.
And like the lesson to learn from, well, also she came from a conservative background, so talked about becoming progressive against, a background that didn't necessarily point her in that direction. Like she is so authentic and like funny and like a little mean, and I think that was really resonant. Another person that does that is Barrett Adair, who's been in the space for a long time. Barrett is so funny, like she's genuinely funny, so she just like she is herself. And I think she's grown by like a crap ton in the last couple of weeks, not that she wasn't already big. So that's really cool to see. There's, I don't know his full name, it's Eli's Substack. I like this kid. I think he might be like 22. Just like fearlessly going out there, like just like so much content that's like hope core, but like, it's like resist lib, but for a new generation. That's really cool to see. I'm trying to think who else. It's been weird because I'm sure you've had this too. I've gotten so many DMs and like flags over the past week about like creators who are not political becoming political, like finally speaking out.
Sure.
So like I feel like my brain is flooded with everyone being like, I guess they're a political influencer now. And I think that's actually the wrong way to think about it. I think they're humans who finally hit a breaking point, and like we can celebrate that. Well, not the breaking point, but that
Sure,
they've
sure.
wanted to help.
Welcome to the team kind of thing. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's interesting. Although I will say, and this is something that I think we're starting to address more, we've always had a bottleneck problem with influencers in the Democratic Party, and such like we kind of like pick a couple and use all of our resources on them. And they are fabulous. Like having had the chance to work with many of them, like a lot of them are really inspirational, great people. But
Kind of
like,
sounds like how we fund campaigns as well.
no, it literally replicates itself exactly. It's crazy. And I've always like, because when you go to the events and stuff, like you will see the same people over and over and over again. And like, I'm there too. I'm part of the problem. Like I can't say I'm not. But I've always wondered what it would be like if we diversified like funding and infrastructure that we give to people, instead of like, me when I was doing partnerships at Courier, emailing the same person that I know 7 of my other friends are emailing. What if we all had our own like people? And then that would also support folks in other states, because a lot of these people tend to live in the states where we live. Yeah, I think we're doing a better job than we did last cycle. But I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done there.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a running theme on this podcast for sure. Like I hosted Ashwath Narayanan from Social Current, and like we talked about the fact that it's just a running I've talked to like some folks with like big audiences as well. Like even the people who are kind of doing it for a living, like people come out of the woodwork 6 weeks before election day to be like, can we give you money to do this? It's like, dude, that is not how this works. Like you can't fund campaigns that way. You can't fund ads that way. And you sure as hell can't fund influencers that way. Like you got to build long-standing relationships with these people. And I think the right has been so good at cultivating like homegrown, like the Charlie Kirks, whatever of the world. Like how much money was he able to raise so that he could build a freaking media empire while our like some of the best in our business are struggling just to like get that $500 brand deal so they can keep the lights on. And if we could actually like invest a small fraction of the money that we're putting into like a handful of Senate races that are not actually flippable into some actually like, like long-standing infrastructure, I mean, who knows what change we could see, but yeah, our party is very focused on like, okay, it's 3 months out. Now let's start building. And it's cycle after cycle. We continue to make the same mistakes, it feels like.
Yeah, I'll say this. If you're on a campaign and your current plan has influencers just in the GOTV section, no, put it all the way in fundraising. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but like do it, because that is fundraising. Like you won't see immediate return. That's okay. Do you see that much immediate return in call time? Probably not. Like, just like, yeah, think about it like that. And I will say I had a crazy enlightening experience. I guess it was like a year ago now, where I was on a panel for new media. And what the panel ended up being was like 4 or 5 of us on a stage and just influencers in the audience asking us a ton of questions. And it was so interesting. It made me like being, doing the work we did, like I could stand up for every decision we had made. And like, that was a good feeling in that room, because it was a lot of like people, influencers being like, I don't have healthcare. I'm not supported. I went out and did this video on abortion and then I got torn to shreds, and like I was alone in that. And it turned into a huge conversation about like how we can support and be there for people. Also, if we send someone out with complicated policy talking points, we need to help them. Like we can't expect them to talk about something that someone studies their entire career to learn about and then be like, okay, go talk about this incredibly hot button issue with no help. Like there should be a policy expert hotline to like help them. I will flag something that was really sad and upsetting to see, because a lot of these people, they would ask questions and I'd say, listen to me, like get represented by an agency. Like I hate that that's my fix in this situation, but like get yourself onto an agency. There's a PR team, there's a legal team, like protect yourself, especially against MAGA, like protect yourself. And so many of them, but more so creators of color, were like, no agencies will sign me. That made me so disappointed in the Democratic Party. I was like, what do you mean? Like, because and there are people saying like, I'm a Black person, I'm speaking out about this issue, and now they won't touch me. They won't like help me with this. They won't support me. And like, that just made me so disappointed. Like, what is the point in any of this if that's what's happening? But yeah, I also, for the Party of Labor that supports workers, having an entire contingent of people that we expect to do significant labor for us without offering them healthcare or stability or any type of job security, any type of, like, they can't join a union. That's it's not structured that way. It's so disappointing. So I'm hopeful that changes.
I have nothing to add to that. Yes, that's all heartbreaking. One thing I will say though, you mentioned the fundraising. I was just recently working a race where we had a lot of influencers get involved. Like, we pitched some and some actually came to us. And actually, let me tell you, I think the future of Democratic politics is Twitch. If we could figure out how to use Twitch, I could not believe how much money we raised on Twitch during this one. It wasn't a consistent thing because we had to find somebody with a big audience to bring us in. That is one channel that I never touch. And I'm like, man, maybe I should just be spending all my time there because people on Twitch couldn't give money faster. It was wild. Really? But also a Substack Live also brought in some serious money. Again, we were working with an influencer who had a huge audience. So it's not like we went and did a Substack Live and brought in money. But like we went to their Substack Live and people donated. And it was pretty wild to see because like I feel like last cycle I didn't see anybody doing. I certainly was not involved in anything with Twitch or Substack Live. This cycle we're seeing Kat Abagazele she's been on the pod twice talking about it, but like she's been raising tons of money on Twitch and really just reinventing. Like she's like, I don't want to do call time, so I'm doing Twitch, Instagram, YouTube lives. Now, granted, she started with a shit ton of followers, but like I don't know, like let's all. I am quite wondering if that's where we should all be investing our time and energy moving forward because the Twitch community is amazing, if unruly and complicated. I love them. Like that's, I just think they don't take shit in a way that like to the next level of like other platforms. So okay, so we kind of jumped over what your newsletter is, but it's a pretty interesting format. I mean, it's not like you didn't reinvent the wheel, but like you're doing curation in a very deep way, which is quite cool because it's like a quick. Like you describe it. How do you talk about your newsletter? And then I'll ask you some questions about it.
General spiel is it's politics, pop culture, social media, and tech from the perspective of a millennial. The way that it came about is I, read a billion news briefings a day. That was my job. I have not weaned myself off of it. I think this is how I'll be for my entire life. And I think for most of the time, I felt stressed out by the chaos, right? Like, because I would be reading world news, like wars, and I'd also be reading celebrities did this, and I'd be reading social media platforms did this, and I feel like I was fighting a war in my brain for a long time about how to parse those things and put them in buckets and learn how to categorize them. And then something really shifted for me in 24 when we started talking about how politics and pop culture are the same and like just culture in general. Like it's not a Venn diagram that has a lot of overlap. It's one circle. And in that moment, I think I stopped fighting the urge to categorize all the news I was putting together and wanted to see it as one giant picture, which was the inspiration of the newsletter. And like knowing that's overwhelming and clashing, but also knowing that I have to. That is the picture. The picture that is painted is very combative and hard to understand and complex and nuanced. And I wanted to stop being afraid of that. So what the newsletter was born of, it was like, I'm going to put these big categories together in one place. And instead of shying away from, there should be a newsletter about tech, there should be a newsletter about politics, there should be a newsletter about pop culture. I'm like, no, it's one thing. It's one picture. It's a tapestry. We have to see it all together. So I'm sure people feel jolted by like, oh, this, how Native communities in Minnesota are like revolutionizing the way that we're protesting there. 2 stories down, Sydney Sweeney arrested.
With the bras. That's what I was going to use as an example.
I'm sure that's jarring. That's the point. Like that is the world that we exist in now. And if you want to understand voters, if you, especially young people, I can speak the best to my demographic, which is going to be key because we're acting a little crazy right now. That's what they're consuming. That's what their feeds look like. That's what their brains look like. And they're making connections between those stories because that's what brains do when they see them all together. So that was the impetus behind it. And then a kind of gloss on that was I really wanted to highlight stories that I didn't see anywhere else. Like you'll note, obviously a lot of the emerging themes are similar, but I wanted to reward journalism that actually found a new angle or like did something interesting because like that's the point where it's supposed to stretch our brains. I mentioned the story about how Native communities are organizing in Minnesota because I thought that was a fantastic like perspective, like then it's really interesting. It's people that I've never seen interviewed about this type of work. And that's been my goal, to like elevate narratives and stories that I think are really important, to reward the journalism that's doing that. And since my readership evolved out of my personal and professional circles, knowing that these are people making narrative decisions for organizations, for candidates and all of that, being like, hey guys, pay attention to this. Like, this is a narrative I'm not seeing Axios push, that I'm not seeing Politico push, or if they are pushing it, it's buried at the bottom of some whatever. Just interesting things. But yeah, the idea is to see pop culture, politics, social media, tech, all of it as one big tapestry altogether, to embrace the craziness that your brain goes through when it sees it, because that's really the only way to understand this moment. And to hopefully, like, by doing this exercise of just reading the newsletter and seeing all those things in conjunction, hopefully make us all better operatives by better understanding the state of mind that all the voters that we're talking to are in.
As someone who reads your newsletter every issue, that added a lot of context to me. Like I didn't put together that was how you were thinking about it. So that personally makes it like even more interesting. And again, I open every episode. I look through every issue. So no, that's really interesting way to think about it. What would you say are some of the biggest stories you think people should be paying attention to right now that we are not paying attention to? As the master curator of like the entire world's news, like what are the big themes that folks are missing, you think?
I think, and this is just a hunch I've had for a minute, and I think a lot of people are gonna disagree with me, and I welcome it. YouTube is having issues. The vibe session on YouTube is real. I've seen like the smart tech journalists start to pick up on it more. On the one I just pushed out, like, YouTube is trying to cull a slop, I think, to try and gain some control back to creators and all that. And I struggle with that because, like, people love the slop. What does that mean? Like, when we talk about democratizing social media, we need to consider maybe people only want slop. Like, we can't I think that's really interesting, especially since I see so much investment in YouTube, and I don't think that's wrong by any stretch of the imagination. Sure. But I think that platform has bigger issues, and I would anticipate in 2 to 3 months we're going to see, especially as we get closer to the midterms, like a lot more complicated. Because the news cycle for YouTube last cycle was like, it's amazing, it's this miracle place. Like, I don't think that's what's going to be coming out in the media this cycle. Other things, I mean, everyone's kind of tracking this, but like Gen Z men, I thought the Vox article recently about how Gen Z men want to be parents, like they're the main drivers of wanting to have children, but they don't want to be stay-at-home parents. They find that emasculating. Like, that's, I know, something we're all trying to get at. And the Young Men's Research, what's their last word on Substack? Young Men's Research Initiative? I'll find it. I'll send it to you. They're doing great stuff with this too, but like, there's something to the point of like, you have to read their surveys and polls of young men in conjunction with like pop culture stories that aren't actually about young men, that are about basketball or football or anything like that, to actually contextualize the research. I feel like that's something that I hope will shift and change. Like, it's not just doing polls of them. It's like doing polls of them, and then you sit down with a popular ESPN guy, and then you sit down with a streamer and you talk through the research with them and make them give you their thoughts. I think there's like a layer of nuance that we're missing. But it's weird. It's like Gen Z men, like they're very sensitive. And I think that's something that people like, it's weird. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But yeah, I think it's a narrative that needs more attention. Obviously thinking about Minnesota and ICE, like something that's been really scary to me that I'm seeing more of now is that there have been 8 ICE murders in 2026, and we know almost nothing about the 6 other people. So I hope, as hard as it is to be flooded with this coverage, like these murders are going to continue, but when they happen in detention centers or to people of color, honestly, we're not giving them as much attention. I want to see like everyone go balls to the wall for everyone that perishes because of this horrific regime. Like, put aside though, we've already done this story, whatever. No, I want to see like full page in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal for every single person that's gone because of this. And I think that's a huge blind spot we're missing, that like there are deaths that we're not paying attention to, and they deserve just as much.
So It's interesting. What do you think what do you think about the current state of traditional media? As somebody who reads so much news, simply to distill it down for your readers, like I'm assuming the majority of people are not clicking through on most of these articles. They're reading the headlines, they're seeing your occasional note, you're reading your takeaway. Like, do you feel like the media is meeting the moment or completely failing us or somewhere in between? And like,
Yeah.
like I know what the narrative is, but I read a lot of news, but it's very clear you're reading way more news than I am on a daily basis. So like, how are you feeling about the consumption that you have available to you at the moment?
Yeah, I think I try not to make blanket statements because even the organizations that I feel really not good about, every now and again, there's a good reporter or there's like a story that I
Sure.
think is good. But overall, I really think legacy media is floundering. I think, as we know, like a lot of them are losing a lot of money. I don't think we realize this. Like a lot of them have a lot less money than they did, and it's happened rapidly. So I think we're not noticing, but it's interesting to see what's going to happen. Like their resources are simply not what they were, and all of us in our minds, these are behemoths, right? Like they have $1 billion, they'll never run out. That's not true anymore. But overall, I just like it's corporate capture. Like they all have to like please their editorial board, who all have certain interests. They all have corporate interests. I feel like they're playing this bizarre, like trying to catch up game with the public without realizing that the public doesn't want them, without realizing that their entire value add was they directed the public. Like they were never supposed to be in the position of trying to like chase other people's interests. They were supposed to set the news, like sell the interest. And they don't have the capacity to do that anymore, capability. They've given up their credibility, I think, in a lot of ways, shapes, and forms. So now they're forced into this posture that does not work for them, like at all. That's an industry, like many industries, with a lot of ego. So I think I see like a lot of journalists get angry quickly, and the whole rush to break the story and getting shit wrong, which happens all the time. Like they've done studies on, there used to be like a handful of corrections published. Now it's like every day there's tons and tons of corrections because people are not being careful what they write and put into the world, it's worse for them. And I will say that it is worse for them because they are automatically legitimized by the banner on top of their whatever newsletter, tweet, whatever.
Sure.
They can't fuck up, and they do it all the time. So I really wonder if it's like done, like if this is like legitimately going to come to some kind of close soon, or if there's going to be some actual real resurgence. It's just hard for me to picture what that would be. I think they have to like fundamentally reimagine a new place in society for themselves, which, yeah, that's hard. I don't know how they're going to do it.
They obviously don't either. I think we're seeing the floundering, but no, it's really interesting. Again, it's somebody who just like consumes so much content from them. If you're feeling, yeah. So speaking of slightly larger organizations, our friends at Crooked Media liked the name of your newsletter so much that they took it for themselves. Was that more flattering or annoying? And do you have a message for our friends at Crooked?
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
Okay. Well, I really liked Open Tabs as a name from you. They're not meeting the moment the same way, but that's fine. We'll leave it there. Okay, so we talked about TikTok already. I was going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you kind of answered a lot of them, but I do want to talk about one thing. So we spent, like 7 months covering the Trump TikTok presence and the Biden, which then became the Harris TikTok presence. We watched and raised alarms. I mean, you, me, and Kyle Tharp from For What It's Worth, who now runs Chaotic Era, which I love. I read every one of those, of course. We were raising alarms. We were seeing, it went from like the Trump campaign was not figuring out TikTok, and suddenly they were figuring it out with a vengeance, and it was pretty scary to watch in real time as like they caught up and then surpassed Harris. My question to you is that's an account that I feel so much like love and like I literally I watched her TikTok for a job with you, last cycle. They have not posted since election night of 2024. And I'm just wondering what you think that says about the Democratic Party and our investment in digital, that we built this massive, massive program and literally haven't used it since the election of 2024. Like, am I reading too much into that, or is there something to share from that? Is there a metaphor here worth digging into, or it's just it happens, campaigns end, things get shut down, we move on?
I asked Lucy that question, and then within 2 days, the Harris campaign resurrected the account in question. Still took a 14-month break, so I think the question holds, and I think Lucy's answer is still very much worth listening to in the context. Just want to clarify, we do know that the account is back. It was not when we recorded this episode.
Yeah, it goes beyond that. Like, you and I were working with tools that cycle that I was really excited about, that, you know, yeah, and that's just like, we just shut it all down when things got bad, and it wasn't anyone's fault besides the people who stopped funding things.
I mean, it goes back to the same problem, right? Like the infrastructure, they only cared for a couple of months before the election instead of saying, well, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again in 2028? You know, and like, I don't know if anybody's doing it, but I know you, me, and Kyle aren't doing it, and I don't see anybody else doing it, you know, the work. So I don't know. It's pretty scary. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, like, it is not for lack of talent. I have known now several alumni from the Biden-Harris campaign, the Harris campaign, that are brilliant, are so good at what they're
crushing it in new roles, right? Like they're behind the Gavin, you know, his accounts and stuff, right?
Yeah, we had such a group of tremendous talent in that campaign, and it's been so sad because I agree, like it just. I don't know specifics of what happened, but I assume they laid everybody off. Like what happens when you lose a campaign. There was no thought about keeping people on. And when I say people, I don't mean like one poor intern who's being passed running like
nobody, right? Yeah, for sure.
For no money. I mean keeping an actual, I'll say skeleton staff, but I mean 5 to 7 like high-priced, well-paid, strategic thinkers. It's so crazy. Like we threw away an immensely valuable resource that was staffed by a high potential, high powered team that we know we're going to need in 4 years. Like, were we just betting on the fact that elections were over, period, done? Because that's a terrible bet to make, and not one I hope it would make. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think it's about funding prioritization. I mean, every vertical in campaign world will say they're underfunded and it should be them that gets more money. But with digital, I think we have a real point. But like it's remarkably short-sighted to me. I'm frustrated in advance for, like you said, in a year from now when everyone's scrambling to get this back up and running again, and it's much harder, and we've lost trust because there's a total like disappearance for years. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, the DNC.
I mean, it seems to me that account should have been just transferred to the DNC, and they should have like brought maybe the same team or hired new people or used their people. But like that account, I think people don't appreciate just how, like, it was the biggest political account on TikTok, with the exception of maybe like the Trump one. Like, and there wasn't a close second at the time. And it's literally, so I don't know if you've checked it recently. I checked it as recently as like a day ago to like confirm that I didn't want to have this conversation. They're suddenly live. The most recent video is November 5th, 2024, and it's muted because they must use music they didn't have the rights to. So it's like, that is the last time that account posted. And it was the biggest political account on TikTok. And it's just dormant, you know, and like, what a time when we need to be able to reach people. And again, I don't blame Kamala Harris in the slightest. Like, it's not about her. Like, it's so much bigger than her. Like, this is about our party not recognizing the need to invest in keeping things like that. They worked so hard, so much talent and money and effort went into growing this massive account. And then instead of saying, great, how do we keep this going for the next time, they shut it down. And I am sure that in like August, some DNC staffer will get the keys to it, or you know, whatever. Like, it'll come back. Or maybe it's unclear to me who owns it. Like, I've heard mixed thoughts on that. But like, regardless, the fact that we as a party can't figure out how to like take this massive thing we built, like, is a pretty dark, like, ominous metaphor for like the state of how we approach work. Is like, it matters during elections and then doesn't matter after, which you can't win elections if you only work on this shit during elections. And like, I can't ring that bell louder, but you know, I don't know. Here we are.
I had the same questions because I was like, there must be some legal issue or finance issue, like, that's blocking them. But I'm like, at that point, hire lawyers and figure it out. Like, it's a valuable enough resource that it should be utilized. And it's, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Pretty painful. Okay, so what are some of the biggest things you learned about progressive media during your time at Courier? I mean, Courier really did they didn't invent the genre by any means, but they really did take it to the next level. I think a lot of like what we're seeing in the progressive movement, like media infrastructure, I feel like Courier like charted a path. You can correct me if I'm wrong. You were inside, I was outside, but I feel like they, a lot of the folks that are doing phenomenal work today are like doing it around or in the city. Like I feel like Courier wrote the playbook. And again, tell me if you think I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And like, what did you learn? I mean, yeah, it was amazing to watch Courier go. Like the name of RC's episode was from 0 to 3 billion views in a year. It was like they literally were nothing. Like really rare. And I mean, there's some other people doing some like Bulwark, Midas Touch, there's Crooked, plenty of people doing very innovative things. But I feel like so much of the internet, for me, at least my algorithm, is people doing the Courier thing. And I'm sure Occupy Democrats and some of the old school like lib posters would take issue with that, but like, they took it to the next level. So yes, what did you learn about progressive media during your time at Courier, helping build it?
It's so interesting because like Courier National, which is that vertical, like the black and yellow one that people see. Fun fact, modeled off the For What It's Worth colors because like it's so.
So this is all Kyle. He gets all the credit.
It was like me, Kyle, RC, and Devin, who's our amazing video producer. The four of us, like in a room Zoom room in 2023. Writing this playbook, writing out these goals, and like we've all written those goals, like you work your hardest, but you don't think it's gonna happen.
That's a nice idea. Like 3 billion. I'm sure your goal number didn't have that many zeros in it.
No,
that was like I'm sure if you could have gotten 10 billion, you would have been thrilled. And here you aren't like in the billions, within a year. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, and it was really. I mean, I think all of us took our collective knowledge from other spaces we'd been in, and like. RC and I come from campaign world, so does Kyle, but like we'd all done kind of different things. And like, it's so funny because I just remember having a conversation like, oh yeah, bold text, highlights, and yellow arrows. Let's do that. Just like, because logically, we're like, yeah, that works. And it works so much better.
It's so weird.
Ever guessed. And I remember I was early on, I made TikToks for the Courier account.
Okay.
And they're like reaction style videos, very Cat Abu inspired. But like, I remember the first time one of those videos hit 1 million. And I was like, what the hell? It's like, I think it was genuinely because we were so nimble, we could be really adaptive. And like all of the content genuinely came out of our brains, if that makes sense. Like we weren't trying to reverse engineer anything. We weren't trying to like do anything like crazy strategery. We had basic strategery based on what we knew worked. We had a desire for authenticity. We had a goal in mind to bring attention to the mission of Courier and to just inform people in actionable ways. And it worked insanely well. And that's like one thing, like it's been really cool to see, like you said, a lot of people, I see so many people that have black and like turquoise or like black and white purple. And I love, like, it's good. But like one thing that I will say is I think part of the like what really worked was we weren't following a formula, if that makes sense. And a lot, to his credit, a lot of that was RC's brain, a lot of that was Kyle's brain. Like I was the Gen Zer on that call, so like I was trying to inject like things like that in there. We like weren't copying necessarily. Like we all exist in an ecosystem. We all take inspiration from each other 100%. Like you said, we didn't reinvent the wheel, or we didn't invent the wheel.
Sure.
But I think sometimes something I see us do in the Democratic Party, and I was going to say this when you were talking about like Twitch stuff too, like when something works, everyone's like, oh my God, we have to copy and paste it immediately. Even if it makes no sense for my principle, even if like what we do is really cool but unrelated to this, we just want to like kind of force ourselves into this exact same model. I think we should continue to draw inspiration from each other 100%, but like I think it was the authenticity. I think it was just like, we have these ideas, we're going to try them. We always talked about throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck. Like that's what everything we were doing. We weren't following a script. We weren't following a model. That's, oh my God, the amount of times I've been asked like, what's the model? How do we replicate it? I'm like, if you're asking me that question, I don't know if you can, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's just like one concern I have looking at the landscape right now is absolutely draw inspiration from the successes of others, but always stay true to like what you're doing, because it's not going to make any sense if you copy and paste. And I think we tend as a party to do that. I think it also comes back to what we talked, like there's a feeling of desperation, right? Like everyone wants to do Twitch because everyone has an EOQ coming up and wants a lot of money. So instead of like sitting down and having time to reflect and being like, okay, what's our Twitch? Like what's our version of this that has the virality potential? It's okay, copy exactly, like do exactly what they do.
Right.
And then it makes diminishing amounts of money at every time. Like I think it's going to be interesting to see if Twitch fundraisers in September are like still, or Twitch live
Sure.
streams, not my native platform.
I wasn't going to go there. I don't know. Yeah, not mine either. So.
It'd be really interesting to see if they're actually making money or if that's completely diminished. So yeah, it's like you said, I think we set a genre, but the point of Courier was it was its own creation. I would like to see everyone do that as much as humanly
Sure.
possible while
That's
taking
cool.
the time to learn. And like, I'm sure you feel this way too. Like anyone who ever wants to DM me and ask my thoughts on a question, I'm happy to answer. Cannot promise I'm right ever, but like
Sure.
take what we learned, take the lessons, take all the pain and make something better out of it 100%. But do your own thing, man. Like stop, don't copy other people.
Yeah. Fair. So my Substack is called Free Digital Tools. It's not political, although it gets political. And I just share free digital tools. You read so much news. Like, do you have any tools you're using to keep up, or you're just like tons of bookmarks and tons of scrolling?
I have a Slack channel that's just me, and I send everything in there. And then 3 to 4 times a day, I sit through it and I categorize it. It is not an optimized system in any way, shape, or form. It's born entirely out of when I was 19 years old. I shared clips in a Slack channel. So that's like my most comfortable space. Yeah, it's not good for my brain. I'm quite sure my brain is melting, but that's how I do it.
I guess so. You got to get you an RSS feed for one. I feel like that would help make sense of some of this. I use Feedly, which I've talked about on Free Digital Tools, and it's free for up to 100 publications, which you might fly through. But yeah. Okay. If there was one journalist that you could lift up and make everybody know about tomorrow, who would it be? And if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But like, you read so much news. Like, is there like a person or even small publication that we're not listening to that we should be?
404 Media, which I think everyone knows, but everyone should follow it. I'm going to shout out the Courier Substacks. In particular, as a law student, I love Lisa Graves' Substack, Grave and Justice. She is brilliant and has so much experience in the field, and writes as a brilliant legal mind with a ton of empathy, which is just like really cool to see. I'm sure everyone knows McKenna Kelly, but she does amazing work. This is me and Dylan Wells went to college together, so I'm biased in saying this, but she's like a native content user, and I think you can tell in her journalism about it. I think it gets it in a way that a lot of other journalists don't. Delia Kai, I'm a big fan of in more of the culture space. Yeah, I think those are all the folks. I mentioned, I have to find his last name, but Eli's Substack on Substack, I'm a big fan of. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's great. Okay, cool. And then if candidates, organizations, or campaigns, whatever, we're going to change one thing about their digital program tomorrow, is there something you would like to see them do differently?
Ooh, one thing. Okay, maybe two. This is going to be unhelpful for small campaigns, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have always said that you should staff a digital team with deputies in every single other department. Like, you stop thinking of digital as a monolith, because in this era, there's
everything.
like, it's everything, and you should have someone on everything. Like, if you're making your email guy film TikToks, odds are it's not a great use of like anyone's time. And that's why I say for small campaigns, I get it. I've done it.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
horrible.
that one person's doing everything, but you're talking about like bigger races where they're like investing in staff. Yeah, it's a whole different story.
Since 21, I have been begging, if you have the resources, structure your digital team like an octopus, where you have a deputy that touches every other single branch, because it requires unique skill set, unique aptitude, unique personality. I would say, like, a digital organizer is really different than a digital content girl, is very different than a digital fundraiser. And well, obviously a lot of us can play all those roles and have played all those roles, but it's helpful when you get to inhabit one of those and really sit in it, because digital is so powerful, and like its functionality to improve every single part of a campaign is unmatched. Again, I'm biased, but I think it's unmatched. So
Kind
I
of the
think
point of this podcast is I definitely agree. Like, people need to take digital more seriously if we want to, like, move the movement forward. So
yeah, and I've seen a lot, and this hardens me. Like, on a campaign cycle, traditionally the finance director is the first person on, sometimes even before the campaign manager. I'm seeing more and more digital director be up there with that. Like, it's FD and DD, first hires. Should be that. Should even possibly be digital first. I especially because, like, if you're name ID issues and fundraising and all that, it should be digital first. I like genuinely advise every campaign, anyone who's thinking of starting a campaign, like, digital person should be one of your first hires, then build the rest of the department like an octopus, and like respect that it's not monolithic. Just because one staffer can do everything does not mean that's actually a strategic way to do it, and you're actually probably diminishing the returns you get from your team by having them do it that way.
that's super helpful advice, especially for bigger campaigns. Obviously, doesn't apply to everybody, but yeah. So how can folks find your newsletter, and where else should they be following you online?
Group Chat Correspondent.news is where you can find me on Substack and elsewhere. And then my TikTok is Lucy, Lucy_Ritz, RITZ_. And yeah, I do. If you are a visual learner, that's what I always say. There is a version of my newsletter for every newsletter I send on TikTok. So if that's your preferred method of consumption, that's there too.
Oh yeah, and in 2 years, if they need a lawyer, they can look you up. Or,
Yeah, well, if anyone has bar tips too, like I'm also available for that.
Whiskey and water gets you drunk, keeps you hydrated. That's my bar tip.
I appreciate it. That's It's like fun. People like emailing me campaign questions, and they don't know that I'm in contracts class.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I mean, this was super interesting. And again, like, I've known you and your work for a long time, but whole different way to think about what you're doing, and really fun following along. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing it with us.
Yeah, and I love your mission, love your work. I think you democratize our field. You make it more accessible and easier to understand. It's not exclusive to just the party, so I really admire that. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Definitely not exclusive to the party.
Yeah.
That does it for another episode of Hello Merge Tag. Thanks so much for listening. Know anyone who might appreciate this podcast? Please share it with them today. Find all episodes at hellomergetag.com or wherever you stream podcasts. Have questions or want to connect? Drop us a line at hello@reverbalcommunications.com. Until next time, keep on telling your story.